Yo, welcome back to another video, baby. Anyways, we're ready to get right into it. Let's get to it.
Everyone's hyped about the second trailer for GTA 6, but have you ever noticed the differences between the trailers for GTA 5 and the final version that launched? In this video, I'm going to show you at least 30 things that changed and made a huge difference in the game compared to what was shown in the trailers. Trust me, some of these will shock you. A lot of what was in the trailers never made it to the final game. That's exactly why you can't trust 100% of what you see in the GTA 6 trailers when it comes to how the game will actually be. So if you're already catching the vibe of this video, you know it's going to be awesome. Hit that like button and let's get started. I'll go through this in chronological order, following the trailers from the first to the last. The closer we get to the latest trailer, the fewer differences we'll notice, as newer trailers tend to align more with the final version of the game, and that's totally normal. I'll start with the first trailer released. To make it easier, I'll include links to all the trailers in the description so you can check them out while you follow along. This will make your viewing experience even better. In the first trailer for GTA 5, the first noticeable difference compared to the final version is the vegetation. There's an absurd amount of trees surrounding Mount Chiliad and other mountainous areas, which would have looked incredible. However, by the time the game launched, it became clear that the consoles of the time couldn't handle that level of detail. As a result, many of those trees were removed, leaving the mountains looking much barer. Later in the same trailer, there's a scene showing a crop duster plane spraying insecticide or some other chemical. While we do have the crop duster in the game, the functionality of spraying chemicals never made it to the final version. It makes me wonder what they had planned for it and why it was left out. Another interesting detail is in the jewelry store heist mission. I think this is part of the subtle approach, but I'm not 100% sure. In the trailer, Michael is wearing a smaller mask that only covers his mouth and nose to protect against the gas. However, in the final version, he wears a larger mask that covers his entire face, likely to better fit the idea of a strong hallucinogenic gas. Lastly, some parts of the trailer clearly weren't finished when it was released. For example, at minute 104, you can spot a beta police vehicle. While the resolution makes it hard to be certain, it looks very similar to a police car from GTA 4. Additionally, at minute 106, the police officers chasing the character are also from GTA 4. This is evident from their uniforms and hats, which were exclusive to GTA 4 and don't exist in GTA 5. This shows that the trailer reused assets from the previous game while GTA 5 was still in development. Now moving on to the second trailer, we see the mission Crystal Maze, where Trevor destroys the O'Neill brothers' house. In the final version of the game, you have to pour gasoline around the house and shoot the trail to ignite the fire. However, in the trailer, instead of shooting, Trevor throws a Molotov cocktail to start the explosion. Also in this second trailer, we see Michael in his beta version. He had a slightly different appearance with a more aged face and a sterner expression. The final version of the character turned out much better, balancing seriousness and charisma, which fits his personality in the game perfectly. A bit further into the same trailer, there's an interesting scene related to the mission Pac-Man. For those who don't remember, it's the mission where you deliver the car transporter truck loaded with vehicles to Paleto Bay. During the mission, Franklin releases the JB-700 to fight off the cops. The difference between the trailer and the final version is the location where this happens. In the final game, this part takes place on a country road near Paleto Bay. However, in the trailer, it looks like this scene was originally set in Los Santos, right in the middle of the city. That would have given the mission a completely different dynamic. It would have been interesting to see this in the final version of the game. Another mission that seems to have been altered is the one involving Chop, where you chase D after he kidnaps Chop in a van. In the trailer, Chop is seen running away, apparently from the Ballas, who are shooting at him. This suggests a different setup. Perhaps the Ballas were after D, or D called them for backup, and they ended up chasing Franklin and Lamar. There's also a scene in the trailer that I don't recall being in the final version. D jumping over the hood of a car. If this scene is in the game, it's likely a detail many players missed. One standout and frustrating detail from the end of the trailer is the Hydra jet. In the trailer, the Hydra is already present and functional, but it wasn't introduced until years later in GTA Online and was never included in offline mode. This feels unfair because Fort Zancudo has the Laserjet P996, but the Hydra, a classic from GTA San Andreas, remained exclusive to online. The fact that the Hydra was clearly shown and working in the trailer yet wasn't released at launch indicates that it was ready but held back. It's frustrating to think about why Rockstar took so long to release it and even then never added it to offline mode. It feels like a missed opportunity for such an iconic vehicle. Moving on to the character trailers, for those who don't know, there was a trailer for Michael, Franklin, and then Trevor. Let's start with Michael's trailer. which has quite a few differences and inconsistencies, and then move on to Trevor's, which is a bit more polished. Right at the start of Michael's trailer, we see that he's already in his final version, which is a nice touch. Shortly after, we see a scene that appears to be from the mission Repossession, where Tracy is complaining to Michael about Jimmy. In the final game, this dialogue happens when Franklin is walking into the house.
Jimmy called me a bitch!
However, in the trailer, it doesn't appear to be tied to that mission. It's unclear whether they added that dialogue just for the trailer or if the mission was different at some point during development. Later, there's a scene from the mission Daddy's Little Girl, where Michael and Jimmy are at the pier after biking all the way there. The main difference here is the location. They're not at the far end of the pier as in the final version, but further back, with the amusement park still visible in the background. This next part is intriguing. There's an animation in Michael's trailer showing a guy playing tennis who appears to be Michael. Though the resolution isn't great, he gets visibly angry after missing a shot. It's unclear whether this was a scene transition that got cut from the final game or if it was meant to be an in-game animation triggered when Michael missed a shot in tennis. Either way, it feels like something that was planned but didn't make it into the final version. Around the 1-minute mark, there's a scene from the jewelry store heist during the loud approach. In the beta version, instead of wearing helmets, the crew wears traditional bandit masks, the classic cliché style. These masks are similar to what we saw during the bank heist in GTA 4. Perhaps to avoid making it feel too similar to GTA 4, Rockstar replaced them with modern helmets, which actually look much cooler and fit the game's aesthetic better. As I mentioned earlier, the last detail in trailers often feels the most off. In Michael's trailer at 1:06, we see a scene from the mission by the book. The terrorist in this scene is not Tahir Javan, the man in red we shoot in the final game, but a different NPC. It's unclear whether this was a placeholder NPC during development, a cut animation for shooting the wrong target, or an alternate version where Tahir Javan could escape. Regardless, it's clear that this doesn't match the final version of the mission, where you shoot Tahir Javan without any ambiguity. Switching to Franklin's trailer, there aren't as many differences, but a few details stand out. For example, in the mission Hood Safari, the van behind Franklin is gray instead of white, which doesn't change the gameplay but is a small aesthetic difference. However, in the same mission, there's a noticeable difference with Denise, Franklin's aunt. In the trailer, she's wearing family's gang colors and has glasses that give her a gangster vibe. This suggests that in the early version, Denise may have been more involved in gang culture, perhaps even as a supporter of Lamar or the families. Even in the final game, Denise shows attachment to the gang lifestyle and the neighborhood. But in the trailer, it looks like her role might have been more significant, given her style and demeanor. It would have been cool to see her more actively involved in the gang narrative. Another mission that had its ending slightly altered was The Long Street. In the final version of the game, after leaving the area where the shootout with the Ballas happens, you reach the street and find a man casually talking to a prostitute. Usually you end up killing her and stealing her car to make your getaway. However, in the trailer, it seems the situation was slightly different. It looks like there was supposed to be a parked car, and Franklin would arrive, break the window of the car, likely a fancy SUV, and then escape at high speed, leading to a much more intense police chase. At the very end of the trailer, there's an interesting detail. You can hear Lamar's voice inside Franklin's house, telling him to get out and have fun with some prostitutes.
Enjoy them hoes, homie.
Yeah, whatever.
This suggests there might have been cutscenes or transitional scenes involving Lamar inside Franklin's house. Perhaps when you switch to Franklin while he was still living in the hood, Lamar would sometimes be in the house saying something before Franklin left. I honestly don't remember anything like this in the final version. If anyone recalls Lamar being inside Franklin's house in cutscenes, transitions, or anything similar, let me know because I might have missed it. I really don't remember seeing that. Switching over to Trevor's trailer, the first thing that appears is a cutscene that seems to take place shortly after the destruction of the Lost Camp. In this scene, Trevor is walking out with a jerry can in hand. It looks like this was an alternative version to what we see in the final game, where the camp is destroyed using sticky bombs rather than gasoline. It's possible this idea of using the jerry can was part of the beta version but ended up being scrapped in the final release. Another interesting thing to notice is in the mission Nervous Ron, where Trevor takes over the Lost's airfield. In the trailer, when Trevor jumps out of the plane, there's an explosion in the background. This doesn't exist in the final version of the game. It suggests that there might have been bombs, someone trying to blow something up, or maybe it was just added to the trailer for dramatic effect. It's hard to find a logical justification for that explosion. At around 3 minutes and 27 seconds in the trailer featuring all three protagonists, there's a suggestion that the Paleto Bay heist could have ended in a different location. For those who don't remember, the heist ends with the crew on a train. After a long ride, Trevor, Franklin, and Michael get off and are confronted by Agent Sanchez. However, in the trailer, during Trevor's dialogue and the cutscene shown, instead of being on the train, they're at Trevor's airfield in Sandy Shores. This might indicate that there was originally an alternative way to finish the Paleto Bay heist. In the final game, it's the only heist with no alternate approach, but in the beta version there might have been a second method. Perhaps the scene shown in the trailer was part of that scrapped second approach. Right after that, there's an incredibly intriguing detail that most people probably missed. In the mission Eye in the Sky, Trevor is in the helicopter observing Chad Mulligan's car while Franklin is on the ground chasing him. The interesting part is that in the trailer, you can see Trevor throwing the helicopter pilot out. This is fascinating because it was supposed to be part of the mission but was cut. When you finish Eye in the Sky and switch to Trevor, he's flying the police helicopter. He even says something like, "Hope his landing was soft," implying that he threw the pilot out. This detail didn't make it into the final game. Maybe Rockstar thought it was unnecessary, but it's still an interesting curiosity. In the gameplay trailer, there are other notable differences. For instance, there's a scene transition where Trevor is shown vomiting in a toilet. Inside the toilet, there's a doll's foot, which isn't present in the final game. It could have been part of a discarded transition scene. Another difference in Trevor's transition scenes is that in the trailer, when switching to him, he's fleeing the police with 5 stars and multiple vehicles, including 2 helicopters. In the final version, he's only fleeing with 2 stars and 4 vehicles. It seems this part was toned down to make it easier for players. Another curious detail from the gameplay trailer is that when entering Los Santos Customs, a stats panel appears in the bottom left corner, showing information like speed and braking. This feature was removed from the final version. One thing that really annoyed me in this trailer is at the 422 mark, where they show how to earn and spend money, giving the impression that you could buy properties. This was clearly planned but cut from the final version for reasons only Rockstar knows. Finally, in the GTA Online reveal trailer, all the player names are GTA Dev, like GTA Dev 1, GTA Dev 2, 3 and more, which is amusing but likely just Rockstar developers showcasing the game to the public. In the final trailers for GTA 5, there's a scene showing the 3 protagonists at Lester's house. I don't recall any mission where this happens. It might have been intended as a way to start the Option C mission. In Option C, Franklin goes to Lester's house and explains that everyone is trying to kill either Michael or Trevor and he needs help. It's possible that in the beta version, Franklin might have called both Michael and Trevor, leading them to meet at Lester's house. This could have included a cutscene where the 3 discuss the situation and plan their next steps. Such a scene would have added a sense of unity and collaboration early in the mission, setting the stage for their alliance against common enemies. The last noticeable difference happens early in this trailer, around the 7-second or 18-second mark. Michael seems to be telling Franklin about Trevor torturing him, which gives the impression that Trevor already knows part of the truth by that point in the story, specifically during the Paleto Bay heist, based on the scene shown. However, I don't recall this cutscene being in the final version either. It's likely that this scene was reworked for the final game, perhaps to avoid making it too obvious that Trevor was already aware of certain details at that point in the story. It's fascinating to see all these differences between GTA 5's trailers and the final version of the game. The downside is that it makes us question.
Okay. Thank y'all for watching. I'm going to be back in